Good afternoon, evening, whatever time of day I decide to release this. Because it changes every week, in case you didn't know. This is Hit Play. I'm Isaac, that's James. You guys know who we are by now. And if you don't, welcome in. Welcome to your first episode. Today we're reviewing Encanto, the 2021 movie, because we don't like to review things on time.
No.
Unless they're major blockbusters. Or they star a big director.
Even those we kind of
have
skip
a big
on.
director.
Yeah.
And even those we take a while to get to. So, bear with us. We finally got to Encanto after months and months of hearing hype and it being heralded as the new Disney movie. That new hit Disney movie, I should say. Which feels like it's almost all of them
Every
nowadays.
single one that comes out.
Yeah, James, Encanto. You wanted to watch this.
Yeah, this was my pick to watch because we went an entire week without any ideas for a topic. But I've had these songs stuck in my head for months. Since it came out, I have probably had the song We Don't Talk About Bruno stuck in my head. So I was like, I will finally watch this. I think to some degree the movie lives up to the music. I know the music was a big source of the hype around this. In my opinion, some elements of the movie definitely live up. But overall, I would say it's pretty good.
I think it's in the tier of like Moana, Zootopia, where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of hype and it's a good movie. It's not a bad movie.
But
I don't think Disney animation knows how to make a bad movie at this point. But in the long run, I don't think we're going to look at it in the same vein as like Tangled or even Frozen 1 Frozen 1, where it just has that cultural impact and the staying power that it has.
I just told you before we recorded, We Don't Talk About Bruno is the number one song in the US.
It is the number one.
What was it from Frozen 1? Let It Go.
Let It Go.
That the one? Apparently that one didn't even reach that high in the charts. So maybe Encanto has a chance of...
Maybe I'm just a hater.
Maybe you're just a hater and maybe it's just too early to tell. But nevertheless, I think for the impact it's had right now, it's pretty strong.
It is pretty strong.
Even people I know who don't even probably watch movies, when I was at work and I was singing a line from We Don't Talk About Bruno, and one of my coworkers, who I swear probably has never seen the movie in his life, he just started singing along with me, and I was like, how do you know this? Where do you hear this from?
It is the second highest grossing animated movie this year.
Okay, this year.
Behind, do you know what number one was?
Of last year or of this year?
2021.
Of 2021? No.
Sing 2.
Sing 2? I was going to say Luca. Wow. Interesting. Did we need a Sing 2?
Did we need a Sing 1?
Fair enough.
Did you watch Sing?
No. What were your thoughts on Encanto? Because you're not a musical person.
I'm not.
But you're an animated person.
But I'm an animated person. It was okay.
Remember, this is a kid's movie.
No, I know. That's why I'm not, going too crazy. It was okay. It wasn't... Like I said, I don't think it's going to... To me, anyways, it's going to have the same impact that, like, Tangled had.
Yeah.
Or even Moana.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and start roasting this movie.
You are going to sit here wearing a poncho.
I am going to sit here wearing a poncho for the podcast. Anything for the podcast.
All right. What was your favorite song?
No, we don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno?
Easily. That was the one song where I actually got oh, this is a good song. This is nice.
I think all the songs are pretty good, in my opinion. Because the music in this was written by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Should be noted.
Who I will admit, a lot of his other works, I'm not a huge fan of. Not a fan of Hamilton or In the Heights.
Hamilton is overrated. Says the non-musical fan.
I just don't like the music to it that much. However, I think the reason the music draw me to want to watch the movie in the first place is just because the songwriting in this movie is so good. It stands out more so than I think most other Disney movies. Probably because it's Miranda and not some person
It's
who
an
works
actual
at Disney.
screenwriter.
It's an actual, well,
Or
not say that they're not
songwriter.
songwriters who work at
Right,
Disney.
right, but well-renowned songwriter who's actually famous because he made good songs. Is what I'm saying.
Someone bringing a different set of songwriting
That's what I'm
skills is what I'm trying to say. Because what I love about this, I don't know, the soundtrack has just such a good blend of the lyrics in each song are so vivid and clear, like to the point where they straight up will just like tell you the emotions. They don't even like beat around the bush in any of these songs. They just will straight up tell you how they're feeling about something. That, like the clarity of the lyrics combined with the catchiness of the music in songs like We Don't Talk About Bruno or Surface Pressure, they're just such, it's so good. And that to me is what I like really respect in songwriting. That has that like Stephen Sondheim kind of element to it that I really respect and enjoy. So I really enjoyed the music to this movie more than anything, in my opinion. For sure.
Nice.
The animation in this movie, though.
The animation is crisp.
I was telling,
very crisp.
I watched this with a friend of mine. Shout out to Connor.
I thought it was Pixar for a good 20 minutes, and then I had to look it up and be like, "There's no way this is a Pixar movie," and it wasn't. I was like, "Man."
Well, I think that just goes to show you
That's
how
crazy.
far 3D animation.
Yeah, no, that's
is.
what I'm saying. That's crazy that it's not
Yeah,
Pixar.
because there are
that level of just detail, like just to have a character to have fizzly hair like the main character Mirabelle has
Mirabelle
is, and for it to be so, that to me was the most cool part, was just her hair.
For me, it was the
way
skirt.
they animated her hair and the skirt.
The skirt, it was the coolest
Because
part.
those are
And
such
sand.
key components of her character.
I was watching this movie and I was like, I'd hate to be the person who had to do all that sand.
Yeah, that must have sucked.
But also just like the hyper real like textures and anything.
Yeah.
Other than the people, which makes sense because they're
Right.
cartoon characters. But like there are shots in this movie where it just shows objects. If you show that to me, I would be like, this is a photograph.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy
Pretty well done.
how well it is.
Being non.
In my opinion, though, the most interesting part of the animation in this movie, there are so many times where it feels like the camera, quote unquote, the camera, there are some times where the framing seemed kind of unnatural. Like characters wouldn't be centered, or
Yeah.
like
I
they
noticed
would
that
be
too.
off doing something over here, but the camera would be here, and it would, I don't know, the framing in this seemed weirdly unnatural, but in a weird way that was also what drew me to it.
It wasn't
In a
typical
weird way.
like animation, just
Where you're just
two
following the characters.
Shot
Yeah.
reverse shot, both of them wide shot.
Yeah.
It dared to do things differently.
Which was interesting, in my opinion. And there were some times, man, they were so subtle with their camera shakes in this movie too. It was so like, there were just a little moments where I was like, you could have given a little bit more, you know, they could have added more to that effect. Because like if you're gonna do what they did with the framing in this movie and with the how each like actual shot is composed in terms of like the composition of everything in the frame, not actually like, you know what I mean? I know what
Yeah.
I mean.
I know what you mean.
If you're gonna experiment with that, then you could probably take it to another level in other scenes, because they did a lot with focusing in this movie.
Mhm.
There was a lot of
Yes.
shots of Mirabelle too where they would use like bouquet in the background and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All that I think was a fun little experiment, but I want to see like a whole movie where they do that like all the time. Like just take it like Toy Story 4 levels of do that all the time kind of stuff, you know?
It's a lot of money and a lot of time.
It's a lot of money and a lot of time and effort. I also think that I noticed this when I was watching the music videos too for the songs, but the dancing in this movie, I don't know if I've ever really seen dancing in a because they hired they did something they had never done before. They hired a choreographer
To just be like,
to be like,
dance for us so we can
here's-
animate
yeah,
you.
so we can animate you dancing. I thought that was super interesting too.
That's cool.
I
That's
like
funny.
that element of they're getting more and more realistic. It's almost uncanny to some degree. But at the end of the day, it's a kids movie.
Damn it,
so,
Disney.
I know.
You're going too hard.
If you were gonna criticize
going
this
too
movie,
hard in the paint.
ignoring that this is a kids movie, how would you criticize it?
Well, I mean,
What's your negative opinions?
my biggest issue was it just took forever to get going. To me, at least. I visibly, like, noticeably was like, where are we at in the movie? Holy crap, we still have an hour. We're 45 minutes in, and like nothing exciting has really happened yet. Like, what is going on? It was like a 30-minute. It was like no, not even 30 minutes. It was like a 45-minute first act.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're just now getting to the prom, and we're 45 minutes.
I was thinking about that, where I'm like, this is probably the least adventuring
animated movie. It's like, we need to go.
Had.
Let's pop. Let's go. You know.
Yeah.
Like let's get moving. Let's Buzz is here in 20 minutes. Let's do it.
Well, conventional storytelling wisdom is that like your character, when they go on an adventure to solve a quest, will physically leave where they start to go somewhere else. But they spend the whole movie
just
in
the house, really.
And
it's
so
really interesting.
In a weird way, it feels like the story doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they're there the whole time. Not that you can't make a story work in one location.
Which I actually liked, now that I'm thinking about it. Just being in one house. It's like, how many movies are we going to see where there's a hero's quest and this and that and, to save the world.
If they're going to do something different with the location, I would have wanted them to do something different with the story. But it was still a standard Disney story.
Yeah.
And so that's why to me it feels kind of like, because I had that moment where I had to pause the movie to go to the bathroom, and I was like, we have 30 minutes left, and we're not even like.
She found
anywhere
Bruno.
Near the
Spoiler alert, she finds Bruno. She finds Bruno like an hour 10 into the movie. I'm like, we're just now getting to the good, like this is the good part. Why were we here 20 minutes ago? 30 minutes ago, really. That was my biggest problem. Was just the first 45 minutes are just a slog to get through. It's a heavy expedition dump.
One of my biggest complaints about that too is the fact that so the song Surface Pressure is a good song.
That's the one with the is it Louisa?
Yeah.
Okay.
However,
I like that one.
What I immediately didn't like
scene.
The reason I didn't like the scene was because it like took away from the story in a way where they were like, we need to learn about Bruno. Here's the song Surface Pressure about Louisa. And then as soon as the song ends, they're like, okay, but what about Bruno?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a good song. If you just put it earlier in the story, it would have been like, don't cut the song out. Keep it. Just put it earlier. Because then you can have the doubts about, well,
that might have been the first time I checked where I was like, what are we doing?
Because it's just like, it's a detour.
30 minutes in and we're taking a big old detour.
Yeah. So that's one of those things. The other thing I didn't like was the ending. Okay, spoiler territory for this. But I didn't like how they got their powers back.
Yeah, I agree. Because I thought it was cool. I was actually really happy with the ending when it was like, I mean, it's a very anticlimactic ending when they're sitting by the river. I was like, all right, it could have been a little cooler, but whatever. I digress. But I thought it was cool that the abuela was like, she's like, comes to terms with, I kind of messed up this family. And
generational trauma.
I've been chasing this dream of perfection, and nobody can ever be perfect, which is a good theme to portray in a kids movie.
And how she passes that down to her kids
and then it just
their kids.
All goes to moot when they all get their powers back. It's like, you don't learn anything.
Yeah.
Like, we don't. The whole point of a kids movie is to learn something. That's the whole reason kids movies are a thing.
So I didn't like that at all when they got their powers
that was another problem.
I'll say this though. I watched this movie with our friend Connor, and when Maribel opens her door as a kid and the door dissipates and it reveals the wall behind the door, I turned to him and I'm like, that means that her power is the house. And at the end of the movie, where she takes the doorknob and she puts it in and lights up the power, he turned to me and he was like, I hate you so much. How are you right about this? I'm like, it was there the whole time.
Screenwriting
101, my guy.
Really? Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, because that would have been a good story, too, to say, like, we ostracized you for so long because you didn't have powers. Mm-hmm. And really, your power was, like you said, you're the glue of the family, in a way. Like, you hold us all together. Mm-hmm. And then they just all get their powers back.
And then they all get their powers back anyway.
That's the one problem I have with it. But, it is
Nevertheless, it's a kids movie.
We're not going to beat up on it too much. So,
just letting kids know that the status quo is God.
The directors, did you know what they directed prior to this?
I did not know.
So one was a Jared Bush, who did Zootopia and Moana.
Okay.
And the other one was Brian Byron Howard, excuse me, who did Tangled,
Ooh, not
Bolt,
bad.
and also Zootopia.
Bolt. That's a throwback.
So I noticed that immediately when the first couple of scenes are going on. I was like, this is made in a similar vein of Tangled.
You thought so?
Yeah, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, that makes sense. It's the
Yeah.
same directors,
One thing about Disney that
or one of the same directors, I should say.
I understand why they do this is they have like staff directors for their projects. Pixar was like this too, where everything was either Brad Bird or Peter, what's his last name? Peter Docter, the guy who did like so many other Pixar movies.
Yeah.
Disney is like that too, where they have like staff directors who they just say, we have a 3D animation project. You guys are our directors for the next like 5 movies. Go and do those. So in the one way, it's like, I get why they do that. On the other hand, I think for all the experimenting that they wanted to do visually in this movie, it probably would have been better to have a fresh pair of eyes, just like they did with the music. That's just my opinion, though. Nevertheless.
Yeah. I think this is a relatively... Well, would you say it's an experimentation, though? I think this was relatively safe, other than, like, like, some moments of the actual animation, per se.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's those little technical risks in them, but, I mean, overall, it's still a Disney movie, I think.
Yeah.
It's not... there were parts of this movie where I was thinking, because you know how Pixar, with every movie, they do something new with their animation.
Yes.
And so when I was watching Encanto, there was stuff like the skirts and the sand where I was like, that's something cool that I haven't seen before. That's a neat little experiment. Or, you know, with the framing or however they were using the camera movements. That was cool to see too. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying in the future,
to bring in a new pair of
a
eyes.
little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, nevertheless,
understandable.
I thought it was good. Yeah.
I will say, shout out to whoever made the decision to cast all of the cast as Colombians.
Mm-hmm.
Very good decision. One of my biggest gripes with Coco was not everybody was Mexican or Mexican descent. And so I think it's cool that the whole cast was either Colombian born or of Colombian descent somewhere down the line.
And also shout out to
very cool touch.
Whoever at Disney. Also,
not that I hate Coco, but you know, it's a nice touch when everybody involved like that is, you know.
I felt the same way about all the songs that were in Spanish, where I was like, whoever at Disney was like, we have a large enough reach as an audience. Nobody's going to complain if a song is unsubtitled in a different language.
Yeah.
I was like, finally, you're becoming a little globalized now, Disney. We get it.
We'll get there. We'll get there one day. We started with Coco, and now we're getting further and further.
But, yeah, those are my final thoughts.
Cool.
I thought it was pretty decent.
Nominated for, where is it? Best feature, or won, actually, excuse me, a Golden Globe for best animated feature.
Understandable.
Is it going to win the Oscar? I would bet $100 million it's going to win the Oscar.
Watch Raya and the Last Dragon. If that's animated, or if that's nominated, watch that win.
It is. Well, it's nominated for the Golden Globe, so probably going to get nominated.
Will it win best original song or best soundtrack, do you think? Do you think the power of We Don't Talk About Bruno... It's
nominated, I believe.
Is We Don't Talk About Bruno that powerful of a song?
Well, did Let It Go win? If Let It Go won, I think it wins. But let's see. What do you think about the cast? Speaking of them all
the
being
characters themselves,
Colombian born,
or just about the voice actors?
The voice actors themselves.
There were times where I couldn't tell if they wanted to commit to having an accent or not.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest issue.
Other than that, though, I mean, I don't know much about the art of voice acting.
Not really an issue for me.
Not really an issue.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I don't know much about the art of voice acting, so I can't I don't want to critique them on something that I can't say.
Sure.
They're
not bad.
Did a well job
for two of them being not professionally trained voice actors, at least. And I don't know about the rest. I don't recognize any of the names that I'm looking at. I just recognize Stephanie Beatrice and John Leguizamo.
Whoever voiced Luisa, I liked her singing voice in Surface Pressure. That's the most I can say.
It was. We can look it up right here.
Jessica Darrow.
There you go.
Shout out to her.
Shout out to her. Doesn't even have a picture on her.
She doesn't even
on
have
her
a Wikipedia page.
So she's definitely a voice actor. All right. Let It Go did win for best original song.
So we don't talk about Bruno.
So we don't talk about Bruno. It's
Probably
also
also
gonna win, considering they set that precedent.
I don't doubt it. Don't doubt it at all. In the tier of Disney movies, where would you put this? Is Moana and
It's a B.
they're in B tier?
Yeah, it's one of those movies where I watched, I enjoyed,
And you move on from.
and I move on from. Yeah, it's not gonna make my DVD collection. But it was good. It was cool. It was nice visually to look at. It popped. The colors were beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
That's something we should talk about too. The colors were
I love-
so beautiful.
I pointed out to Connor during the movie, and it blew his mind. Where I was like, "Look, the abuela has a red shirt. One half the family's yellow, and one half is blue. That's the Colombian flag." And he was like, "Do you think they did that on purpose?"
Yes.
And I was like,
If it's Disney,
"Yes."
Disney always does that on purpose.
But yeah.
I'm trying to see what else.
What are you looking at? What are you looking for?
I don't know. Just something else to talk about. I think that's really it.
I think that's really it.
Cool.
Good
Well, that
job,
was a quick
Disney.
one.
Good job.
Nice. Good job, Disney. Well, what do you put it at? I didn't ask you
I would
that.
say it's hard because I like the soundtrack so much that I
Yeah.
almost want to put it in A tier for that reason alone.
Mhm.
But nevertheless, I'd probably say B, high B. It's a B plus. I give it a strong B to a light A.
Now let me ask you this: this is back-to-back Disney movies, maybe even 3 if we're counting Raya. So 3 to back to back to back.
Mhm.
Were the movies big-name animation movies made by actual talent? Obviously, we just read what the directors did prior to this,
Mhm.
being released on Disney Plus, and arguably getting bigger on Disney Plus versus because I didn't really hear about this movie until about a month ago, which is when it was put on Disney Plus. It was put on Disney Plus around Christmas.
Yeah.
So like, do we think that's the new meta for Disney? Is releasing animated movies on Disney Plus and just letting kids talk about it on wherever, or parents talking about it on Facebook?
I don't know. That's tough to say. Because here's the thing. Their last 2 movies, Luca and Raya,
Yes.
just haven't had the impact that Encanto
Sure.
has had.
Sure.
So
Sure,
it's
sure.
tough to say whether this is going to be... They were probably looking at Raya and Luca and being like, we wanted to release these 3 movies, but
In theaters. Yeah.
yeah, now we have to do it on Disney Plus. I don't know. It's tough to say right now, so I won't comment.
Okay. Well,
We'll look forward to the
anything
next
else
Disney
you want
movie.
to talk about with this movie? Oh, Wilmer. I forgot about Wilmer Valderrama.
Who did he play?
Fez himself was in this movie. I forgot about that.
It was a pretty good movie. We recommend. If you haven't seen it yet, watch it. If you know somebody who has Disney Plus, take it from them and watch it from them. Thank you for letting me use your Disney Plus for a day.
I didn't pay for it. It's not my Disney Plus. Shout out to my dad. All right, we're out of here. Thanks, guys. This was a good one, a very fast one.
Woo.
See you guys next week. Thank you.